Hello and welcome to the Bronco Exchange. I'm your host, Dr. Shanessa Fenner, and today I have Amy Nevajas with me. She's the Executive Director of Better Health. Hi, Amy.
Hi.
How you doing today?
I'm doing so great. Thank you for having me.
No problem. Now, Amy, I want you to first start off and let the audience know a little bit about yourself.
Okay, well, my name's Amy Nevajas. I'm originally from Wilson, North Carolina.
Oh, okay.
Yes, home of the barbecue. I went to UNC Chapel Hill for undergrad and got dual undergraduate degrees in political science and psychology. And then I went to law school at Campbell University in Buies Creek. And while I was there, I met my husband, who's in the military here. So that led me to Fayetteville. So we're here and we have 3 wonderful children. I have a 3-year-old, a 7-year-old, and a 14-year-old. So I stay very busy.
Great, okay. Now, how did you start working for Better Health?
I got into the nonprofit sector because I really wanted to make a difference and to really be able to impact people, and for job satisfaction, that was important to me. So I was in the nonprofit sector, and an opening came about at Better Health. Actually, their director was retiring after 12 years. So the timing was right, and it was really something that I cared a lot about and was passionate about. Better Health is often affiliated with diabetes, and my father has diabetes. So that for me was a tie to something that was very personal. And then seeing about them and reading about them was really interesting and exciting for me. So I'm just so fortunate that I got it, and that was a couple years ago.
Okay. Now, Amy, what is diabetes?
Diabetes is a condition where the pancreas is not producing insulin properly. And it can be different. So for some people, it would be type 1 diabetes, where their pancreas just is not producing insulin at all. And for those individuals, we usually associate it with children. And for those individuals, they are going to be reliant on insulin. And then for type 2 diabetes, it's where someone's pancreas is not producing insulin as well as it should be. And so we utilize often medications to help boost that insulin production to help kind of handle that condition for them.
Okay. Now, before we talk about both types and, give me some more examples as well.
Yeah.
How does a person find out if they have diabetes?
Well, oftentimes they either have a family history and they see some signs and conditions. If they have type 1 diabetes, they usually get really sick. And usually those children are diagnosed while they're in the hospital. They've been losing weight. Frequent urination is a symptom. Extreme thirst is another symptom. Loss of vision can be impacted as well. So it just kind of depends, but they can also just be screened. And a lot of times doctors are testing pretty regularly for blood sugar levels, which indicates whether or not there's a chance that maybe there's something going on there and there's a concern. So they can get screened at Better Health, they can get screened by their doctor if they have those symptoms or questions or family history.
Okay, now where is Better Health located?
We're on Bragg Boulevard at 1422 Bragg Boulevard, right next to the old IHOP.
Okay.
And we've been there since 2000, so we've been there for a little while.
Okay. How did Better Health originate or begin?
Well, we're actually celebrating our 60th year.
Wow.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
So thank you. That's exciting for us. We were founded in 1958 by a nurse named Ruth Peters. And Ms. Peters saw, working in the healthcare field, that there was no resource for the uninsured to get critical medicines. I mean, what good did it do for them to go to the emergency room if they were written a prescription that they couldn't fill? They were going to have to go back. So that's what she started Better Health for, and she actually started it in her dining room, and she eventually built it and got a board of directors and secured funding. It was able to grow, and so our mission is to address the unmet healthcare needs in Cumberland County. So now we can help with emergency medicines, emergency dental care, vision. We have our diabetes program, children's programming, and loan closets. So we've really grown as we've identified needs in our community since that time.
Let's go back and talk a little bit about type 1 and type 2 diabetes. Now, is there such thing as there's one that's worse than the other, or kind of talk to me about that?
Yeah, well, there are They're just very different. So I don't know that I can say what's worse, but I can say that with type 1, your insulin's not producing at all. So with that, you're going to have the insulin either through injection or through a pump, which can be very, very challenging, especially you can imagine with young children. That's very difficult for them to adjust to. That's a new reality. With type 2, usually individuals are not dependent on insulin, although they could take insulin if it gets to that point, but they can usually take medications. And we work with a lot of individuals with type 2, teaching them to manage their diabetes through exercise and nutrition. So that's really a cool aspect of type 2, that you can utilize those things that really are within your control to help manage your blood sugar and keep it at a healthy level, whereas individuals with type 1 don't have quite the same resources or ability to do that.
Okay.
If that makes
Let's
any
talk
sense.
about the pump versus the shot, the injection.
Sure, yeah. Pumps are really cool technology, so that's applicable for the type 1s, which we usually call juvenile diabetes. My father has diabetes. He was diagnosed with type 1 when he was about 11.
And tell the audience what you were telling me about what they gave him and all.
Yes, so obviously it was a long time ago, and when he was diagnosed, he was given 2 syringes and a sharpener, and he was told to sharpen and reuse his syringes. And he loves to tell that story. It's his badge of honor. But obviously things have changed so much today. So today he has an insulin pump, and it can actually track what his blood sugar is. It can chart it out for him in a graph, and it can help him maintain a steady blood glucose. So if he's starting to get too high, the pump will automatically bolus him with insulin to help bring it back down to where it wants it to be. And then if it, for example, got too low, it would set off a little alarm just to let him know, hey, we're getting too low, you need to consume some kind of carbohydrates or sugar or something to help elevate your blood sugar a little bit. So, I mean, the technology is really amazing now, that very, very helpful with managing blood sugar.
Why is there an increase, Amy, on children getting diabetes?
Well, what we're seeing more of now is children who are getting type 2 diabetes.
Okay.
So with type 2, that's where your pancreas isn't producing as well as it could, and often it's associated with obesity. But I want to point out that it's not always. I mean, there is a stigma associated with it. Some people just have it in their genes. It's just hereditary, and it's not that they're overweight. It's not that they have a poor lifestyle. It's just in their genes. It's something that's hereditary. But so with the type 2, individuals can use nutrition, and they can use medication and exercise to help manage their blood sugar, and potentially even get off their medications if they are able to manage it really well.
Okay, let's talk about the nutrition. What can a person with type 2 diabetes eat to maintain it and not be able, or hopefully not have to take that medication?
Right. Well, a big part of it is portion control. And so we teach at Better Health. We have clinics several days a week where we do different classes, and one of the things we teach is the plate. So we talk about lots of green veggies. You have to have your proteins, of course, and just being really careful with your carbohydrates. Individuals who have diabetes need to count their carbohydrates, because that tells them how much insulin they're going to need, because the carbs are going to increase their blood sugar, and the insulin's going to help bring that back down. So it kind of counteracts one another. So we try to work with them really carefully about counting their carbohydrates, how to read food labels, making the right choices, and portion control.
Okay, so we talked about the vegetables. What about meats, and what about fruits? Because
Mm-hmm.
you would think that fruits would be good, but fruits have sugar in them.
Right, right. So it's being careful with what fruits you're selecting, knowing kind of how to gauge how much sugar are in those different fruits. And that's, again, something that we do a lot of, is education on different things. You might think, oh, this is fantastic, this is healthy, I've always been told this is healthy, but it may carry so many sugars that it could raise your blood sugar. So again, I think portion control plays into that as well. You can't have an unlimited supply of apples or strawberries or whatever it may be. Even though it is a healthy food, you do just have to be kind of cautious with that.
Okay, and as far as exercise, the person should, walk, lift weights, or what kinds of,
All kinds of exercise. I mean, really, physical activity is just such an important component. And also with diabetes, if it's not well managed, it impacts people's blood flow. So that's why sometimes we see amputations or extremities having issues with blood circulation. So the more they're moving and the more they're exercising, it's helping double fold. It's going to help keep your blood sugar better managed, and it's also going to help keep blood flowing to those extremities that you really want to pay close attention to. We do free exercise classes at Better Health. So we've done Tai Chi and yoga, aerobics, light weights. Everybody's a little different. Our dodgeball tournament. I mean, whatever anyone that wants to do that they enjoy to help keep them active is going to be a fantastic thing.
Okay. I know several people who have diabetes, of course, and they always talk about there's a focus on making sure their feet are okay. They're constantly checking on their feet and just different things.
Yeah.
Kind of talk to me about that.
Well, that's because a lot of times with diabetes, you have a decreased sensation in your feet, but people don't realize that they have that. They think that everything is still fine and that their sensations are fine until a problem is caused. So the concern there is if you step on something that's really hot, but your sensations are not great, you might not realize it and you may have developed a sore on your foot. Well, because you don't have good sensations and your blood flow is not great, it's going to take a longer time to heal. And that is something that is very common in individuals with diabetes. Their body takes longer to heal. And so we have to be really careful, and we encourage our clients always just to check their feet every day. Just take a look. See if there's anything, red or puffy or a wound, because those types of things do need to be treated. They need to be looked at. We have a wonderful podiatrist who comes to Better Health quarterly, Dr. Dan Lout, and he's just an amazing guy, and talks to them about the importance of being mobile, doing what you can, and paying attention to your feet. We also talk to them about wearing white socks, because if your foot is bleeding and you have a white sock on, you should be able to tell when you take that off as well.
Oh, okay.
Whereas if you had black socks, that might be more challenging for you to tell that there was a wound or something, even in your shoe that was rubbing the wrong way. It could be something as small as that, but if you can't feel it, it's going to continue to get worse, and then infection can set in, and then we run into bigger problems. So really kind of heading that off before it's a problem is really important.
Okay. Let's talk about this dodgeball tournament that you and I had an interview about 2 weeks ago.
Yes.
And of course I wrote the article for Up and Coming Weekly. So kind of talk with me about that, the dodgeball tournament.
This was our 5th annual dodgeball tournament. We call it Diabetes Dodge It. And so it's a fundraiser event to raise money and awareness for Better Health and for the programs that we have. A lot of fun. We have about 30 teams that come out to Freedom Sportsplex, and we held it on August the 25th. It gets extremely competitive. You would not believe how competitive these teams can get.
Yes, I believe it.
It is crazy, but it's just so much fun. Last year, the police department won.
Oh, okay.
This year, TrueFit Gym in Hope Mills won.
Oh, wow.
We have judges who come out, they do teams, and they do costumes, and I mean, it's just a really fun time for lots of different people to come out and have a great time. And it does get competitive as you progress, but it's really open to anyone. It's all about raising awareness, having a great time, and being active.
Okay.
So that's a really fun fundraiser.
Okay. So the money's used for what, Amy?
The money goes back to Better Health, so it's going to help us provide those diabetes clinics that we do 3 days a week, and the classes that we offer, the supplies that we can provide. I mentioned before the medications that we're able to purchase for the uninsured. It helps for that as well. As you can imagine, that takes a tremendous amount of money to provide critical medications and dental care. So it's going to help pay for those, for the building expenses, for the exercise program, loan closet, all of those types of things we have to have funding for as a nonprofit. So we really do rely on those fundraisers and donors to help support those.
Okay. So it's very expensive to buy that diabetes medication?
Oh, yes. Insulin is extremely expensive, and for individuals who don't have insurance, that's prohibitive. And not only the insulin, the medicine itself, but the test strips are incredibly expensive. And so being able to help provide that is important, because if you can't test it, you can't treat it.
Okay. So in other words, if a person has diabetes and they, of course, don't know anything about Better Health, so you're telling me that they're just walking around Fayetteville without any kind of treatment or anything because they don't have money to get the supplies?
Absolutely, they can be, and we see it every day where individuals come in, and sometimes they're newly diagnosed and they don't know where to go. Other times they don't have the money for the test strips, and they come in and their blood sugar is really, really high, dangerously high. And when we talk to them about it, they say, well, I know I have diabetes, but I can't afford the test strips. I can't afford the glucometer. So we're able to help provide that for them and then give them that education that they need. But it happens every day. We see it all the time.
Okay. Well, Amy, I thank you so much for all this wonderful information.
Thank you.
And thank you, viewing audience, for looking at the Bronco Exchange. I'm your host, Dr. Shanessa Fenner.
So very much hypnotized, but